Hey there, I'm Rocio Baeza from GDPR Stand Up. I came across another question on a Facebook group that I am a part of, and I want to share that here. So the question comes from Jane, and Jane asks, does anyone know what GDPR training I should be providing to my staff who are cold calling B2C, business to consumer? All right. So just some background, it looks like Jane is in the renewables and environment industry. And it looks like her company provides services around solar air heating, hot water heating, floor heating, and they provide physical products, and they also provide installation services. All right, so Jane, my response here is it really depends. It depends on the extent of personal data that your organization holds about people that are from the EU or that are living in the EU. Now, in my line of work, I usually see two extremes when it comes to training. On one side, there's a camp of everybody needs GDPR training. On the other camp, there are people that are of the extreme of nobody needs any type of GDPR training. My belief is that it makes sense to be somewhere in between that spectrum, and it really depends on your organization. I would say that GDPR training plans or programs should really be customized if you are wanting that to be effective, but also a good use of your time, of people's time, and your company's resources. I hate the idea of providing GDPR training to everyone. I think that this may not be a good use of resources, and this may not be a good use of people's time, and it may not be relevant. I also am not a fan of not training at all. Now, if GDPR does not apply to your organization, I think that decision makes sense. But if GDPR does apply to your organization, I think that you need some level of training. So as you're figuring out what kind of training to provide to your team, I would say consider the following. One, think about, all right, what kind of data does your organization hold? What kind of personal data does your organization hold about people that are from the EU or that are living in the EU? Start there. And who has access to that information? So for that group, consider providing them with a basics around GDPR. This can be a one-pager. This can be a 2-minute deck. This can be a very short clip. And then you also want to ask, all right, for the people that are working with this data, what are they doing with this information? That is probably a small group. You did mention that you are asking this question for your staff who are cold calling. So for that particular group, Jane, I would say you want to make sure that your training covers things like, all right, what systems should be used in storing this information? Try to contain that. Try not to have so many systems where there are copies of people's personal information across many environments. You want to make sure that you stress the purposes for that information. Your callers, you want to make sure that they understand that information should only be used to call people and for no other reason. You also want to make sure that they understand if the person on the other line says, hey, I don't want you to call me. I don't want you to get a hold of me, or they decide to exercise any of their rights afforded under GDPR, make sure that your team knows exactly how to take in that request and process that internally. And you want to make sure that you also remind them just not to share that information. There's a very specific reason that they have access to that information. It's really to cold call people and to see if they are interested in your product or service. If you have a small team, I would say keep the training to be very small, lean, and simple. I would say that I'm not a fan of these generic training programs that you can find online. I am not a fan of computer-based modules that may not provide relevant information to your group. I am a big fan of providing very much customized and relevant training. My experience has been that if you do that, people are better likely to receive the training, to participate, and to actually take it seriously. If you found this to be helpful and you want to learn more about my work, feel free to check it out at gdprstandup.com. Thanks, Jane.